1500, we got a problem, the door's coming off its tracks. What do we got to do to fix this unit? Well, first step we got to do is remove the screen. So what I'm going to try and do is do everything as if the fireplace was finished. We've got the other cases on it, we've got our channels on it. Normally this would be shielded off with a piece of dirt rock, but because I want to show you what's going on behind here, we're not going to have the dirt rock on it. But I will work from inside it like I would if the unit's completely finished off. So to raise the screen up to the top, and we start removing the Allen bolts. One at a time. Sometimes it's nice to have a helper with you so that you can hold the screen, but things are pretty tight. The screen shouldn't come down too dramatically. Loose bolts, you're going to need them for reassembly. Alright, so once the bolts are out, the screen's going to be loose. You're going to want to push the rails back and out of the way. So that can be a little tricky. So with the rails out of the way, pushed in behind the doors, we can take the screen and raise it up with the door down behind the two side brackets. This should give you enough clearance on the opposite side to get the screen out. The screen comes out just like that. Next, you got to go get your rails. There's one rail on either side. Taking the rails out, it'll just give you a little bit of leeway and room to give you access to the whole assembly. And this is actually easier to do when the door's up, because you can get in there and really grab the rail and slide it out. Do the same on the other side. That comes the second rail. Alright. Now, you set this door up so it's sloppy and it's going to come off its rails when it comes up too quickly. So, at the bottom of its travel, we're all the way down. The roller is on its track, on top and bottom. I'm going to raise it up with a bit of speed. The door is likely going to hit the stops at kind of an odd angle, which is going to knock the rails back and forth and cause the door to come off its tracks. So, now the door, as you can see, is off the track. Now obviously you don't have access to it that way, so you're going to notice that you're going to have to do all the work from within the fireplace. Next step is going to be to lower the door back down. And you'll notice that all the adjustment for the rollers is on the right-hand side of the fireplace. So only these rollers have adjustment. The rollers on the left-hand side have no adjustment. So as you can tell, these rollers are fixed rollers. There's just two holes that the bolts go through. There's no adjustment in those holes. So again, these rollers are fixed. Go to the opposite side of the fireplace. You'll see that these rollers are hooked up on slots. So there's adjustment within the slot to move back and forth to adjust the roll up against the rail. All right. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to show you the bracket that holds the top of the rail. It's right there. That's the view you're likely going to have from within the finishing. You probably can barely see the bolt, but let's see, there it is. That's the bolt. There's one there, and then there's another one that's going to be hidden in a little bit further. Okay, that will have to be adjusted to make sure the top of the rail doesn't move. It can be done with the door in place, but it does make access a little bit tight. Remove the door may be a better idea. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to do it with the door in place. So I'm going to now show you what it looks like from within the unit. I move myself up and in, and getting nice, tight, close. Oops, sorry. That's what the assembly looks like from within the fireplace. So now you'll notice that the door is mounted on two tracks. They're running parallel to one another and they're offset from one another. The bottom set of rolls is on the track that is nearest to you. The top set of rolls is on the track that's furthest to you. So now what we got to do is get the door back onto its tracks and start readjusting everything. So the first step you got to do obviously is ensure that your bottom track is on the bottom rollers, or sorry, the first track is on your bottom rollers and the top track is on the rear rollers. All right, so the next step is to get the door back on its rails. And the easiest way to do that is by loosening up the pulleys so that it gives you a little bit of leeway so you can move the door back and forth. Now these pulleys are loosened, and I can move them back away from the door. And that will allow me to get that track in place and the other track in place as well. So you can take a look here. You can see that the rollers are now moved from the second track, from the first track to the second track. They're in line, and we can now push the door up against that track. Come back over here. You can see that these tracks here's a slightly better view. You can see the second set of rollers is on the second track. Right, now we're going to adjust those rollers so that they're tight to the track. And you want to make sure you're aligned. Sliding something in place to get to the track is really good. So now the rollers are adjusted to the very furthest adjustment, and they should both be rolling, turning as you're moving it back and forth. The final step is to get to the top of the door and readjust the very top track so that it actually goes inwards a little bit, so that way it cambers the door and it keeps it from falling off. This is the trickiest part, really, because you don't have very much space up there, and quite frankly, you almost have to do it with the door standing up. Depending on the thickness of your arms, you may be able to get in there without having to get the door up. I'm going to basically do it with the door up at the top position. So I'm going to raise the door slowly. You can actually see from below the door has come off its tracks already. Okay, so one of the really important parts of this thing is having the right tools, and having a wrench with a ratchet on it makes your life so much easier. So I would strongly recommend, before you get out to this guy's place, make sure you have a ratchet like this. It's about the only way that you're going to make the adjustment on the top of the rail be easy, because otherwise you're going to be fighting in the dark, and once you attach yourself to that bolt, you're going to want to stay on it, and having a ratchet is going to make a world of difference. So I'm going to get up there and I'm going to loosen the bolts so that I can move to adjust the brackets. And again, I'm going to do this from below the lintel, kind of showing that, you know, we're going to be in behind the finishing of the fireplace. My friend who's doing the camera work is going to be showing you through the opening there, so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. Right. The door is all the way down. There's some space here. It's not a ton of space, but there's some space. I can get my arm in there, and with the aid of a flashlight, I can find the bolt and loosen it up. Okay, so I got the first one loosened enough. The second bolt is a hidden bolt. It is a chore to get to. It is the worst one to try and find, but once you're in it, got it. You don't have very much room to wiggle, but you can loosen it up. Okay, now with both those guys loose, the next step is to grab the rail, move it over as far as you can, and once it's torqued over as far as you can get it, switch over your wrench, and at the very least get that first bolt tightened up. Really, a lot of it is just going by feel. Once that's done, in theory, the door should be adjusted. There we are. The door is staying on its rails, and that's kind of the door adjustment. Reassembly of the rest of the thing is done the way, is done the opposite of the way we just took everything apart. Obviously, you want to get both of those bolts re-tightened. Takes a little bit of doing, but it can be done.